Hi Mina, alright, so here is your past life spread, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at where we are, what you did for the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and feelings involved, another important day, and then we're going over here to the death and the lesson learned, and we will get hints of time throughout, okay? So what's going to happen is I'm going to get images and impressions, and I'm going to relay them back to you, and your job is going to be to make connections where you can from what we're looking at here to your current life, okay? So let's start. Here we have the island card. Okay, so the island card can mean a lot of things. It can mean like, Hawaii and Fiji and all that good stuff. But here I feel like the island we are going to, where I'm being pulled, it's like the UK, but I want to say we're looking at Ireland or Scotland, because there's also this like very dense greenery that is happening, and we are being brought to a place where you will be spending a lot of time in nature, a lot of time in the greenery. Sometimes I'll be guided, like sometimes I'll get a song in my head before we lay this out, or movie scenes or whatever, and one of the songs is like an old-fashioned song about a girl playing in a garden. It's really weird. I'm not gonna sing it for you because I don't want to hurt your ears, but there's that, and then I also got scenes from The Secret Garden. So that movie, The Secret Garden. So I feel like we're going to be looking at somebody who is definitely in the earth and with the plants, and that's what it feels like, which is interesting because my last reading I had that too, something about herbs, herbology, plants. And what's nice is that, well, first of all, this is a female life we're looking at, and your occupation basically, or what you spent the majority of your time doing, is right here. This is the healer card. Let's see, can you see that? There we go. The healer card. And this very much has to do with spending time in nature, because there's something where there's a connectedness to the earth, to the plants, to the trees, to nature itself, and you utilize it to help you help others. And I feel like what we're looking at here, it's not only just helping others, actually, it's also helping yourself. There's something about a very healing, therapeutic aspect of being in a garden for yourself, and also utilizing your garden. And also I feel like we're talking about the land itself and what you can find on the land for putting together remedies and whatever it is, concoctions or those like just herbal medicines basically for people around you. And I feel like we're looking at someone who is part of almost like a village, but outside the village slightly, just a little more isolated. And what else? There's something else here about that, but okay, so we'll get back to that. But in the meantime, how you can be making connections is certain things like, one, have you ever been drawn or pulled to Ireland or Scotland? Have you ever been, like, in a way, like even their culture, the language, like the accent, if you've seen photos of it, have you been triggered? Like you see a photo of Ireland or Scotland and you're like, oh, I've got to go there. Oh, I wish I can go there. God, that's gorgeous. Of course, a lot of people think it's beautiful, but being triggered by something is a little different than just thinking something is nice looking. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit deeper. Also the music as well. And then, let me think. So there's the Ireland thing, but there's also the nature thing. So a lot of people, you would find yourself, oh, I'm a beach person. Oh, I'm a mountain person. Oh, I'm a forest person. So if you're someone that actually finds solace in forests, in nature, in grounding to the earth, in like nature trails, being amongst trees, like if you've ever thought of, oh, like I want to spend a night in a treehouse hotel, like those kinds of things. If that kind of like hits you, the idea of that, it could stem from here, because this person we're looking at is very much grounded to the earth. The earth it's her home. Like that's where she gets her, I hate to say the word, but like power, if that makes sense, because we are looking at someone who is rather intuitive. And also I feel like we're looking at someone who, if we were to give them the typical title of like hedge witch, That's what we're kind of looking at here. It's not like someone who's like casting spells. It's just someone who's utilizing the natural things around her to help bring healing to not just herself, but to people around her. And I also feel like we're looking at someone, like this is a time period. We're looking at like a woman wearing long skirts or dresses. I feel like we're looking back. I want to say, I don't think it's like ancient times, but it's definitely not modern. But this is also not a time where we have to worry so much about, I feel like we're not worrying about persecution or anything like that. I feel like we're looking at, gosh, what's it called? It's like, I'm trying to think of the time period to put it in, but it's like the long skirts, I mean, women didn't have a lot of rights or anything like that, but it wasn't so much like we're not looking at this for that reason. I feel like we're not looking at this for the reason of like a female not having rights. We're looking at a woman who's actually quite in her power and respected in her village. So I feel like we're looking at a time, okay, this is how we're going to place it. Those fairy tales that we read as kids, like fairy tales like Rumpelstiltskin, or like, what's it called? What's it called? I can't even think. Hansel and Gretel. Like, you know those time periods of those fairy tales? If you've ever seen the movie Brothers Grimm, if you've ever seen the movie like Brothers Grimm, that would be like the time period we're looking at. And I know that's not very like distinct, but I guess you can go ahead and like check those out and see the feel of the time period, because that's what it feels like. All right. So also, if you've ever felt like, basically, I also want to say, if you've ever felt like you need a place to go, like a place to go where you can feel good alone, like if you need to get away, like that kind of thing, I would say check out botanical gardens or some kind of nature trail or something in the forest, something like that. Which is funny because I just gave this advice to someone in another reading, so that's interesting always when a theme comes up and comes through. Also, the idea, if you are looking to go in a certain direction with like a new hobby, say you want to do a new hobby, something to keep you feeling fulfilled and interested and maybe even challenging, but in a good way, you might want to look into things like herbology courses, or now that it's more modern times, how that can play out is like turning the medicinal qualities of herbs into something more, I guess, more like topical or more like contemporary, kind of like skincare line, or like a makeup line that is very organic or good for your skin, or that kind of thing, where you're turning Mother Nature into something useful and interesting that you'd like to do today, like beauty products almost. So keep that in mind if you're looking for like a new hobby and don't know quite where to turn. Try that out. Just like take a glance at it online and see if it tugs at you, because it has to vibe with you. Don't just do something because you hear about it. Go check it out first and see if it clicks with you a little bit, okay? Also, we're looking at someone who is a little more isolated and part of this very small town. So how that might connect with you is you might have come back in this life really enjoying the idea of finding roots in a small town or a community, finding roots in a community, being part of a community. That might be very important to you. On the other hand, you might be someone, because you already experienced it here, I mean, you really lived fully. It feels very much like you were not like rejected or anything, like you had a good reputation here. So because you experience something like this, it is very common that a soul comes back to experience opposite. So you might find that you're someone that likes to jet off and explore and have adventure, or like travel a lot and not so much settle down in a small town. That might be exactly opposite what you want, you see? So you can make connections in that kind of way where it's like completely opposite. So keep that in mind as well, all right? So let's go to the important day. Here we have the Enlightenment card right there, the Enlightenment card. And the relationship involved with that is a karmic relationship. And this is a feeling of gratitude. And it's really nice because I feel like this is actually coming up mainly for the gratitude, because it's almost like if you are looking to accelerate your development, your self-growth, intuitiveness, any gifts you're playing with, any ideas you might want to have regarding your spirituality and growth and enlightenment, I feel like this is coming up mainly for this, because the feeling of gratitude and being thankful is so powerful and so useful and helps so much. It's something it's like a boost is what it is, like a little power boost. If you can get into the mindset and heart-centered feeling of being grateful for things, it's almost like it points, because you really can't fake gratitude. Like, if you're thankful, you're thankful, but what you can do is you can start to utilize it more. So it's not just waiting around until a moment comes along to be grateful. You can start opening your eyes and mind a little bit and seeing how you can be grateful for like everything. Like, there's so much, even if you're like in a moment and there's nothing to really think about or do, you can be grateful for being able to breathe, being, having breath, or being grateful to have legs to walk and that carry you. There's so many things you can be grateful for, and I know that might sound silly, but the more you open up to these little tiny moments of the day where you can pepper in gratitude, that is going to accelerate you. That's going to really open things up for you in ways that you really can't know right now. You'd have to experience it. And I can actually talk from experience when it comes to that. I'm telling you. So, like, I swear. So try that. I feel like that's what's coming up. But in the meantime, I'm trying to see what's happening here. So we're getting the Enlightenment card because something is happening. Okay, what's happening here is we're seeing a deeper communication with what your natural abilities already give you. So your nature, and I feel like we're actually getting involved in talking with energy spirits of the earth. I feel like we're opening this is a day where an open communication is happening, where it was almost like in your destiny to happen if you followed your path, which you're doing. So it's almost like you're born with these skills, this innate knowing that you are supposed to be tending to Mother Nature and utilizing her in this way and being in her so much, so to speak. This day is like a contact is made, and it's almost like speaking to Mother Earth herself, but it's coming through the form of something like what we would consider fairies, something like that. So I'm feeling like we're looking at a connection with these fairies, and it's interesting because I personally, I don't connect with fairies, at least not at this time in my life, or I haven't yet. So for this to come through to me is very interesting because this hasn't really come through before. I don't really connect with that very well. So this is coming through very much for you, and there's a connection with fairies or sprites or those little earth creatures that are of another realm, that kind of thing. So keep that in mind too. If you've ever had a connection with fairies, and there are people that do, like, they meditate and they speak with fairies as mediums speak with spirit. It's that kind of thing. But how you might connect in this day and age too, if you haven't gotten quite to that level yet, would be simply if you see fairies, like those beautiful books with they're all like illustrated with fairies, or if you hear about interactions between humans and fairies, or those stories, or you see fairies, beautiful little figurines they have, in stores where they put together little miniature worlds. If you love that, if that speaks to you, if you think that's just, oh my God, I wish I could, I wish I had that, or, that kind of thing, if you're triggered in that way, that would stem from here. We're looking at someone who becomes very connected with the earth on a deeper level, and that is also not coming with just experience, but the age as well, like the wisdom accumulation of years. Finally, she's almost like, it's like breaking into a whole nother dimension, basically, or a whole nother level up of development. And that's what we're seeing with the Enlightenment, because all of a sudden she's realizing, oh my God, I'm basically speaking to Mother Nature here, like literally. The Karmic card comes in because there is this would speak to you as well in today, like your current life too. It's something that doesn't go away. I feel like this is a deep bond with Mother Nature, and this could also be coming up because it feels almost like a message for you to get back to nature. And how you can do that is simply take time out of your day, if you can every day, and walk barefoot on the ground, on the grass, wherever, the beach, whatever you got to do. Connect with the earth. That's called grounding. When you have intention to connect with the earth, and whether it's sitting next to a tree and closing your eyes and just becoming in tune with whatever's happening in the moment, meditating in that way, or again, walking on the ground barefoot and really just feeling the ground. And just really quick, what comes through is this thing I tell a lot of my clients is imagine roots going down through your body, like as though you're a tree, and the roots, they can be just like a light, like roots made from light, and they go down through your feet and they connect to the earth through you, and that connects you. So you just have to let it happen that way. So I would say try that out if that speaks to you, otherwise that's what we're seeing this day, is a deeper, higher connection with nature and with your true nature as well. It's almost like a reconnection is what I want to say. So if this woman is experiencing it here, then you can, in this day and age still, like this life, you've come back, you can reconnect as well. Once connected, always connected in this way. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's go to the next important day. Here's the so long, farewell until we meet again. This card is the child card. Whoop. Wait, there, can you see that? There you go. And then the feelings involved is neutrality. Okay, so what's happening here, this seems interesting. So this seems to be years later. I feel like we are moving forward years later, and what we're looking at is after years of doing what you do, you've taken on an apprentice. And we're looking at years after you've taken on this apprentice, and the child card is coming up because this apprentice is actually no longer a child. So we're looking at someone who is, it's weird because it's almost like you were grooming this young person to kind of take your place where you live, but they go away. And I feel like, I'm trying to see what it is, but what it feels like is that this person is leaving because of something having to do with the family arranging like a marriage, quite frankly. It feels like they're being, like they have no choice in the matter. But again, there's something very intuitive about it where it's like, okay, this is happening for a reason, so you want to go with the flow of it. And I feel like that's where the neutrality comes in, because of course you care for them and you want what you want. You had what's it called? Goals, plans. You had plans set in mind. But you know that by now this woman, we're looking at this woman much older, graying hair, just much older. I feel like we're looking at someone who I feel like did not have like a permanent romantic partner also. But anyway, so we're looking at this woman who, it's almost like, yeah, she's much older, but even so, the lessons in life never stop. And by that I mean, she had plans, and those plans did not come to fruition as she expected because of this thing that came up and took this person away. And the feeling of neutrality is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that she's like, I don't care. It means that she's like, oh, okay, so this is part of life, and it's our kind of, what's it called, choice or duty, or it's in our best interest to go with the flow of what's happening, because everything is happening for a reason. I feel like this is coming up to show you that we can, you've probably heard this before, is we can make all the plans we want. And there's this proverb, my grandma used to say, she would say, God makes plans, or we make plans and God laughs. And that's always stuck with me, because it's really true. It's like, you can make all the plans you want, but what's meant to happen will happen, and it's not necessarily aligned with what we had in mind. So that, I feel like, is coming up for you, kind of maybe as a reminder that not to worry or not to give into fear when things don't go according to what you expected or planned, because when things happen that way, it might be scary in the moment. It might be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I had all these plans, like, like you might have planned, like, heck, you could be in a relationship and even like get engaged, and then all of a sudden, something happens where he, that partner leaves or dies, or, knock on wood, like, not, hopefully nothing bad happens like that, but I'm just saying, like, that's what I'm talking about, is you can have these plans where everything looks like it's going to tie up nicely into a pretty bow, and then something lets loose and the bow unravels, and it can be really scary. And it's like, just when it gets scary, or when you when you feel anxious or scared or something because something is not going according to plan, you got to realize that it's happening for a reason. If you're able to step back and see the bigger picture and say, okay, this is happening for a reason. I'm supposed to be paying attention and learning from this rather than giving into my fear. What should I be learning from this? It gets you into this mode that's kind of neutral, and it allows you to kind of start just flowing down the currents as they go and not putting on the brakes, not trying to drastically, keep your course of where you wanted to go, but just go with the flow. I feel like that's the message more than anything out of here, is just go with the flow and don't give in to the fear of things that happen or things that are altered against what you had planned. Keep that in mind. Also, what came through at this time was what's it called? Oh, the fact that this woman, it feels very much like she did not have a permanent partner. I don't feel like she was just like this spinster lady. I feel like she might have had like what's it called, like beaux, men that she had time with, like respectful time with, so to speak, but there wasn't a permanence there. So in your current life, you can find that if you aren't in a relationship, you can either be like, why aren't I in a relationship, or you can be like, okay, this is pretty cool, let's just go with the flow and see what happens. Again, that go with the flow thing, it's almost like not needing somebody in order to be whole yourself. And also, if you're not in a relationship, if you allow yourself to become whole, that relationship will come along if that's what you do want. If you desire a relationship and you're not in one, it's like you got to focus on yourself, and you got to focus on being really happy and finding gratitude and joy in the moments and fulfilling your time with things that interest you and that you're good at and that you connect with, so that it's almost like the relationship part is not so vital to you, if that's the case, and the relationship will come along. If you're in a relationship, it could be because this woman did not experience a full-on permanent relationship, so you came back in this life to experience that kind of bond. So keep that in mind as well, whether you're with whatever your life course is taking you right now regarding that. Also, there's this thing here too of letting go of relationships, people, friendships, things like that, because this woman could not hold on to this person. She couldn't. It wasn't her child or her it's not her job to do that. Even if she really wanted her to stay, what could she do? Oh, no, let me, keep your kid here. Like, she can't do that. So there's this thing about letting go. This person can do it very well. So if you're coming up in your life with more of this, of having to let go of people, I would say if you're having trouble, just to tap into this past life. And that's why past lives are so good to know about, because you can tap into that energy of that aspect of yourself and realize you are quite capable of letting go and going with the flow. So keep that in mind as well. Let's see I feel like there's something else here. Let's go on to the death card and see what comes up. So here, this death card, we have an accident, and right away when I laid this down, what came to mind was it was a new concoction that you were creating from, I feel like, either a plant you had not worked with before, or something about your mind. You're so old that your mind kind of forgot certain things, and it feels like this plant is almost like, not only did you not work with it a lot, but you also forgot the quantity that you put into something that you yourself took. It's like you were making something for yourself, and it was almost like, I want to say, like, by this point there was something in your hands like arthritis, and I feel like you were making something for your joints or your hands to soothe it, or anti-inflammatory of some sort, and you were creating like something that you've made before many times for many people. And it's almost like you were trying to give it more of a kick, and you put something in it, and you forgot the quantity you put in. So it's almost like you doubled your dose because you forgot that you put it in already, if that makes sense. And I feel like that actually led to you passing, and it was by accident. Of course, you didn't mean to kill yourself, but that's what happened. And so what's interesting is when this kind of thing happens, you might find that you have an allergy. You might have been born allergic to certain medications or certain chemicals or certain plants. You might have asthma or allergies when it comes to certain plants. Especially, I would feel like if anything, it would be allergies to plants of some sort, to pollen, to that kind of thing, which would obviously make it hard for you to work with plants in this life if you did have those allergies. But those allergies, you can get rid of those allergies through, again, it depends on like what you've experienced as far as like meditation and self-healing and things like that. But this allergies, this kind of thing, when it's from a past life, if you have it, can be gotten rid of on your own even. So keep that in mind as well. It can also indicate throat issues. If this was taken internally, this might cause throat issues, swallowing, coughing, clearing throat, mucus in the throat. That also, I guess, can speak with allergies if you get the allergies that bring the mucus up, kind of thing. Keep that in mind. It would connect because we're looking at like your soul body, your cellular body, all that is remembering this poison and wanting to get it out on a weird soul level. That's why it would be playing in that way. So keep that in mind. Also, this woman was starting to experience stiffness of joints. So if you do come across any of that, it would come from this life too. And you might not be coming across that, but later on in life, if you just start noticing, stiffness of joints, that might be stemming from here as well. And again, all these things that come from past lives can be overcome in certain ways, whether it's energy healings or hypnosis. These things can be overcome because, again, they stem from another life. So keep that in mind. Now here we have the lesson card, and this is really interesting because this is the using your mind and brain card, like using your mind. And it's really interesting that this is coming up because we're seeing your mind being utilized in a way that is only activated by your heart. So this work that you did, and then this right here, this day where you started to actually speak with, we're going to say speak with spirit, speak with fairies, speak with earth, and what are they called? They're called elemental beings. There you go. Speaking with elemental beings. This, in order to do the work you're doing, which is like actually like quite like scientific, because you're mixing and there's quantities and there's, you know, certain chemical properties, there's all this stuff where you are using your mind very much, but it all comes down to being a heart-based endeavor. So it's almost like this message is coming through that, yeah, you might be a real smart cookie, you might be highly intelligent, and you might, you know, again, use your brain, your mind, you know, might be very active with what you do. But what you'll find that the thing that will bring you the most joy in life, if you're looking for a direction at this point and you are trying to find some guidance as to what to do, you can, what's it called? I guess what I'm trying to say is you can go into your spirituality and you can do these more spiritual based things like working with plants and things like that. It's all very heart based. But it doesn't mean you have to throw your mind out. It doesn't mean you have to, there is a certain disconnecting quality that you have to do when it comes to putting your ego away, because your ego is very into the intellectual left brain kind of thing. So yeah, there is this kind of disconnect from the left brain in order to give over to your heart-based learnings or heart-based explorations, which is more right brain, more imagination. But it doesn't mean you have to give up your intellect. So what's really interesting is that this is coming through and showing you this life of a perfect balance of heart and mind together. And in your current life, that is going to be what will bring you the most joy, is when you are able to balance your heart and mind, that you are going to be able to be challenged on an intellectual level, but also find that what you're doing comes very much from the passion and joy of it's a very heart-based joy, passion, intuition-based kind of thing, but you're also able to enjoy it on an intellectual level. So that's also why I would say that if you're looking for something, you might want to go towards like an herbology thing or something like herbology, like you know, making your own skincare line like I was talking about before, because it doesn't have to be that, but it can be very much like that, where you are so immersed in the joy of creating But at the same time, you need to use your head and look at numbers and look at, certain like properties and quantities and things like that. So I feel like that balance would be the perfect balance for your life in this life. So keep that in mind and keep your eyes and heart and mind open to certain modalities like that might speak to you, okay? So there's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you were able to make some connections. And thanks for letting me read you.